Hey, we're live. How about that? Get your motor running. Head out on the highway, looking for adventure and whatever comes your way. Yeah, God, I'm gonna make it happen. Take the world in a love embrace. Fire all of your guns at once and explode into space. Like a true nature child, I was born to be wild. Flying so high, never gonna die. Born to be wild. Born to be wild. Get your motor running. How about that? So I'm always here to play a couple songs at the beginning, and I was thinking Motor City. Oh my gosh, Detroit. And in a little bit, I'll be bringing up a guy named Ron Crabtree, and that's going to be exciting. But we're playing a little bit, waiting until we get the crowd in. Get your motor running. Head out on the highway, looking for adventure and whatever comes your way. Oh God, I'm gonna make it happen. Take the world in a love embrace. Fire all of your guns at once and explode into space. Everybody sing with me. Born to be wild. And we're live. Hey, I'm Jay Skinner. Hope you had fun with that. Born to be wild. Get your motor running. And that's what we're going to do right now. Today we've got, the reason I thought I'd get your motor running because the guy we're bringing up is Ron Crabtree, and he's from Michigan, and I thought of Detroit and the Motor City. So that's the connection there. Anyway, we've got Ron Crabtree with us. He's going to be here in a minute. That'll sound familiar because he was on the show in July talking about operational excellence. And I want to encourage you to go back in your playlist on YouTube and catch it again there if you want to see and hear more from Ron after we do this today. In addition to being a repeat guest on the Buyers and Sellers show, which I think he's about the only second time person next to my son. So he says, I guess, pretty big deal. He's an author, he's a speaker, and he's internationally recognized in business growth and efficiency for companies for many years. He and his wife, Kim, also run a business called MetaOps and MetaExperts that place high-level, sometimes C-level talented people in positions with companies in transition. So without any further ado, let me introduce to you and bring in Mr. Ron Crabtree. Hello, Ron.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. Good to have you here.
Glad to be here.
Ron, this is a lot of fun, and I'm glad you're here. A lot of people signed up to be here today, and I want people to know real quick here while we get started is that it's a big deal for you to participate. And so up here in the comments, we'll see people. And there we go. I'm just going to hit a couple. Hey, there's Tom Ginn. Good morning. Gregory Sneed says that may be the tamest version of that song he's seen. I says probably the most scratchy one too. Let's see what else do I have here. There's Tom. There we go. Scott Ricard. Good morning, Ron. Hi, look at that. Scott says hi. Let's see if there's any other here's. There we go. Good morning, Jay. Don't want to miss any comments, but I want you to know that while Ron's talking, and we may go over our 35 minutes or 30 minutes I normally do, because this is valuable, and he's given this presentation to thousands, yes, thousands of people. Isn't that right, Ron?
Yes, sir.
Thousands of people. And so and you guys are getting it for free. There's probably a send me money thing here somewhere, but I can't find it. Okay, good. Anyway, Ron, if I like you to take it, and thank you for coming. Oh, there's one right there, Don Bogardus. Good morning. Thank you for coming. Oh, look at, we got people here. Kevin Fitzgerald. Good morning, Jay and Ron. I know that means Ron. Here we go. Okay, Ron, this is great. We got a great crowd, and there's more coming. And we'll watch for comments and interrupt and have some fun. And if people have questions and comments, we'll take them. So, all that said, Ron, way we go. What do you want to talk about?
Well, if you don't mind, I'd like to take just a minute or two and talk briefly about my company and what we do, and then we'll get away from that, and then we'll actually get started on this topic of stop the crazy waste. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen here for a second, and let's see now. We should, see here, PowerPoint slide, and throw this into PowerPoint view. So presumably you can see my screen okay, correct?
Yep. It's right there.
So, what do we do, right? So I started the company 19 years ago doing management consulting, and then we've transitioned in the last 10 years to being a provider of expert talent on an interim and contract hire basis to help organizations get stuff done, right? So very few companies are looking for another McKinsey or Boston Global Strategy binder. They know what they need to do, right? So let's go get it done. And that's what we specialize in doing, is providing folks at the architect, master, or expert level that can step into organizations to get things done, right? So we've built the model around interim, and we are getting more and more involved over time around contract to hire solutions for our customers, where people can step in to bring the know-how at any level, from running the show to leading transformation to plugging in to do the heavy lifting. We got lots of people out in the field, chasing parts. Supply chain has been a huge issue. We have a customer pulling in folks to just get out on the floor and help manage production operations as they transition their organizational design, and a whole plethora of other things that we're involved with. So that's really all I want to say about that, Jay. And I'm gonna back out of here, and we'll get back to the slide deck here in a moment. So let me stop the share. There we go.
Yeah, look, there's something now. This guy, special friend of mine. Oh my gosh, I'm just like honored. Francisco Gonzalez Fuego. He's a high level guy with a big corrugated company in Mexico. We've known each other, met each other probably originally in about 1996 in Costa Rica. And he's in operations. He's an everything guy in the corrugated industry, a real mover and shaker. Francisco, I'm honored by you to be here. Good morning. There we go.
All right, then. In that case, let's go ahead and get started. I've got to share something. Something that makes me crazy. I mean, just absolutely out of my mind nuts, is this simple but true fact that the average organization wastes 30 to 70% of every dollar they spend running the business. They might as well tear up their money and throw it out the window as they're driving home from work every day. And that is a outrageous number. And I've given this presentation to thousands of people in every persuasion, every type of industry, and around the world. And people look at me and go, "You're crazy. It can't be 30 to 70% of everything we're spending is being wasted somehow." And then I ask them to think about it. And they're like, "Well, maybe it could be true. Maybe that could be true." And then as a practical matter, it is true. And then I'll tell a couple quick stories, and we're going to jump to a couple slides and have a little workbook I'm going to share. It's something that you can find pretty powerful. But there's just 3 basic things you got to get right to really understand, uncover, and then attack the sources of the waste to eat you alive. And this is a big deal. I remember years ago, I did a big presentation at Eastern Michigan University, and we had a whole audience full of folks, mostly professional students, people working. And this one lady went through the process I'm about to show you, and she got to the end at the report out. She says, "You know what? 0 of the money I'm earning actually adds any value." It's like, whoa, yeah, everything I'm doing is fixing problems, right? Customer complaints takes me 2 or 3 tries. I can't get people to cooperate. Makes me really frustrated and crazy. And probably 0 of what I do truly adds any value. And that's an extreme case. But there was another situation. I had the opportunity to work extensively with one of the world's largest defined benefits management companies. So if you have like a retirement plan, you would outsource the administration of that. And they had this very large team and a company they had acquired, or about 150 200 people processing these claims, right? First time retirement claims. And we mapped this whole thing out, and I said, wait a minute, we're all going to agree that if we can get it right the first time, that would be a good thing, right? So we're not going to, every time we have to double check, verify, sign off, and validate somebody's work doesn't add a whole lot of value if we get it right the first time. Yeah, they're not at their heads. So let's go through this and tell me what percentage of all the time and money across this huge, massive process with hundreds of people involved, what percentage of that time is just fixing stuff, right? Questioning, verifying, quality control, blah, 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 blah. 65%. They got to the end of that and I thought they were going to pass out. 65%. And that was a huge wake up call to say, whoa, now we really have to go after root cause, get to the front of that process, figure out what we can do to get it right the first time and not have to go through all that. A couple of years ago, I did a very interesting project, very large distribution company, right? They're basically getting parts out of Mexico through customs into consolidation into their assembly plants here in the United States. And we took a really hard look at what was adding value and what wasn't for all the things they do throughout that entire process. And we got to the end of it. Just for that one customer account, they figured they had 30 full-time equivalents. All the hours they were working wasted. And by the way, that's about $900,000 a year that they went, oh, we're throwing that out the window. And if we could get at least half of that back, we go from a marginally profitable account to a pretty good account. Right. So this is very powerful stuff I'm going to be sharing with you as we go. So I want to go back to sharing my screen now and see here.
And just while we're moving to the screen sharing, Tom Ginn just said, you're right. My consulting cost reduction service uncover an average of 30% of any line paid too much for services.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And that's been proven over and over and over again in every industry you can imagine. But let's get through the first key here, right? To be successful and really be able to successfully get through this process, the very first thing we have to get right is have everybody come together and agree, what do we mean by waste, right? What is waste? Well, in short, it's any activity or source of variation that consumes money and time that doesn't really add value. Now, this can be very contentious. I think it's critically important that you pull people together that are going to help you with this exercise. Let's make sure we all agree on what value add is. Back to that defined benefits company, they had 100 people on the payroll. Their job was quality control. It was their job to try to find and fix all these problems. Well, they were quickly not going to agree that fixing something was not value add. So you got to get mind meld around this. So here's a simple exercise that I found to be very helpful, but you've got to do this carefully with your team before you do what I'm about to share with you, is answer yes to all these 3 questions. And then that thing we're spending time on, right? This activity, the phone call, the paperwork, the work that we're doing, whatever it may be, it's value add if I can say yes to all 3 things, right? So first, does our customers see this activity we're spending money doing as valuable? Meaning, would they pay for it? And what I'd like to say is, let's just pretend for the sake of discussion, I'm going to invoice my customer for the product, the service, whatever, but I break down everything that went into the cost, right? And if they looked at that detailed invoice of everything that went into the cost and they started to argue with you, wait a minute, I don't want to pay for 3 people looking at the same thing, right? I don't want to pay for having corrections made. I don't want to pay for making mistakes and having to do it all over again. I don't want to pay for your computer problems. I don't want to pay for your miscommunication, all that stuff. Well, that's the first piece. We get really clear about what would our customers see as value, something that we actually want to pay for. So that's the first thing we have to say yes to. The second thing, and this gets really tricky, in manufacturing, I'm cutting chips, I'm making holes, I'm molding it, I'm converting it, right, from its raw material into its final state. Seeing what adds value or not there is relatively easy, but when you move out of manufacturing into services, I'm going to use a contact center, by the way, for example, to take a look at. As you move into services, physical change doesn't happen. It's mostly, right, virtual, right? It's decisions being made. It's running through the process to verify we're getting it right. It's listening, it's capturing the data, it's decisioning. In the case of the defined benefits company, the only value add thing the member cared about was collecting their first check. And they didn't give a rip about what it took to get that first check. So we got to be really careful about who the customer is and have a pretty cool exercise I'd like to work into workshops that we don't have time for here. So if it's changing something that customers want to pay for, and then here's the third piece, and this can be a really hard thing to get people comfortable with, it's got to be done right the first time, right? So if this step is some form of verification, sign off, double checking, or correcting, it's not value add. And we've got to get really crisp and agree about that. Okay. So with that, we then move into an actual workshop. And what I like to do in workshops is bring people together and have a meaningful quality conversation of what we mean by waste, right? So this is the classic sources. Rework and correction resulting in do-overs or inspections, failing to engage our people, train them, have them involved, treating them like robots. Just do what I told you, don't think, right? That's a classic sin. Inventory of stuff, information, whatever. This is an example for a contact center. Knowledge disconnect, not really understanding what the actual customer wants, or worse, I don't understand what my downstream process customer needs. Therefore, I'm not giving them what they need, right? It's moving stuff, just handoffs of information. It's the motion, movement and carrying and transferring and converting and interfacing, et cetera, over processing, right? Trying to get it perfect, but maybe nobody really cares. What's shocking to me is how often you get people in a room and talk about what they're doing, of how often somebody will look at them and say, why are you doing that? Well, I thought you guys needed that. Well, no, stop wasting that time and money, right? And then, of course,
I have a question.
Go ahead, Jay.
Now, while we're listening to this and watching this, looking at this list, are we supposed to be like thinking about ourselves? Are we guilty of these things? And
yeah, we're
making
going to
either
get to
some
that. We're
mental
going to get to
notes?
that. We're going to get to that in just a minute.
Okay.
We're going to walk out an actual example of how this works in a real situation.
Okay.
And I'll show you how this works with a little worksheet and how you can lead people through this conversation. Then there's waiting, right? Anytime you're working through a process and suddenly you can't continue, you have to stop, ask for information, approval, missing whatever it may be. What's interesting about waiting, whenever an unplanned wait occurs in any transactional process, it always turns into rework. Okay, why would I say that? And this is a really good question if you're in an office type environment. As I would say, look, you're the subject matter expert. You're going through all this cerebral process. You boot it into your head what you need to do. You got your computer screens up. You got your forms, and you're moving through this value add process, I hope. And then, boom, surprise. I can't finish. I have to wait. Now, a minute, an hour, a day, a month, or a year later, when that information comes to you, can you pick that process up right where you were and just keep going? Or do you have to start all over again? And number one on this list, rework correction, guess what? That kills. That is one massively major contributor to waste in organizations that are transactional in nature, is that delay turns into 100% rework of whatever that process had consumed on the first try. That, remember I mentioned the lady that was in the workshop, she said, I thought about everything I'm doing, and all of it is fixing stuff that never should have happened, or the third or second or fourth try, and it's like making her crazy. Okay, so let me walk out how this works in a real live situation. I'm going to go to an Excel workbook I have teed up here, right? And by the way, this is in the CD set, the playbook that we developed, support all this with all the coaching and how to run these kinds of workshops. But the first thing we do is we bring our team together. In this case, go ahead, Jay.
To see, we've got more people.
Yeah, awesome.
Cheryl, thank you. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Hello, Sharon Skinner. Sharon, by the way, let us know how many days. She's gone live for the last, it's like almost 2 years now, and in a big contest. So Sharon, let us know how many days in a row you've gone live for your business. Thank you. Okay, great. So this is a worksheet that we can do, and we can think about it. And this is where we get very specific about ourselves.
Exactly.
Okay.
So here's the context, and this is the real live, example of an actual workshop result. I was working with a large contact center. I'll bet every single person that's in this webinar has had to call for tech support, right? And I'll bet every single person that's in this call would go, and it makes me crazy. It's a big thing, right, on the customer side. So, so I was working with a contact center, 140 agents on the desk. We're supporting keeping computers running at retail stores all over the United States. So I brought them together and said, let's just talk about, for you as an agent on the desk handling these calls, let's just carefully talk about what makes you crazy. What happens every day that eats time and money and doesn't add a lick of value, right? So first of all, remember, you have to get really clear with the team up front. What do we mean by value add? What do we mean by waste, right? So that people aren't being defensive about this. You say, so let's just brainstorm, right? So what we had people do is they would just, okay, well, instant messenger, it comes in and disrupts what I'm doing. So, well, okay, great. How often does that happen? Now, this is 140 agents on the desk, right? Well, golly, that's got to happen at least 30 times a day. Well, okay. All right, what about this? Oh, treasure hunting, right? I'm trying to solve, right? I've got this request and I'm hunting for the right information. Well, that's happening at least 50 times a day. I can't find it, so I'm wasting a lot of time looking for it. I'm chasing approvals from my supervisor. I'm looking for the resources, the information to solve the problem. I'm inconsistent, incomplete requests from the callers. This is the big deal right here. And you just keep going, right? But what's really important about this is then you circle back and you ask your audience very carefully, help me understand the so what. When that happens 30 times a day, what does that cost us? This could be actual money in manufacturing, right? In other words, I'm scrapping a part or whatever. In this case, it was just our precious time. So every time this happens, there was a half a minute, 30 seconds of disruption before I could get back on track. Treasure hunting took 5 minutes doing treasure hunting 50 times a day. Chasing for 75 times a day, I have to spend 25 minutes chasing down a supervisor, having 2 people involved to resolve something before I can actually give my customer, like, for example, an approval. That's pretty common. Before you can actually give that to the customer or enact that, you have to have approval, blah, blah, blah. That's a big deal. And you walk this out, right? So, okay, so far so good. We got these 15 different things. Then here's where the real rubber meets the road is you back up one more time and you start to look at this, right? I'm going to back out a little bit more. And let's just come up with totals. 15 minutes a day, 250 minutes a day, 1,875 minutes a day, 75 times a day. We burn 25 minutes on this particular problem. Notice here, out here to the right, I started doing what's called the Pareto analysis. It's called the 80-20 rule. And we isolate what are the relative few of these issues that actually cause the biggest problem. So we walk this out together with the team, and the bottom line is down here. 18 of our 140 agents were tearing up the money we're spending, throwing it out the window every day. And if we just annualize that, it's $500,000 of just straight waste of our time and people's money being thrown out just for these 15 issues. Okay.
Oh my gosh. And now, just so I'm thinking about people that are watching right now that we're familiar with what a return on investment calculator. And I'm used to getting out in Excel and doing that and figuring out what a particular investment in some equipment or something would be worth and when the payback would be, that sort of thing. This is this for our time and what people are doing. It's a calculator.
Exactly.
I like it.
Right. So then you go back and you say, great, let's isolate the ones that are a big deal and figure out what's the same and what's different, right? Caller not having information, giving up too quickly and elevating too quickly, lack of trust in the process, inconsistent, incomplete requests from the callers. Geez, there's some common themes going on here. Maybe we should focus our scarce time and money on ideating some ideas to go fix that, right? So you turn these things into, okay, let's talk about what we can do about that. That takes you into the ideas. There's a whole process I teach in the full-blown workshop, which I'll explain that in a minute, of how you lead the conversation of working through ideas and then prioritizing them based on impact, doability, and cost, and boiling out the right action items to then build out your action plan, work through your change management problems, work through your communications planning, and ultimately stand up SMART goals to drive your improvement projects to go fix and make these wastes go away forever. And I'm going to explain that in a minute. So what I've just showed you here is a capsulation of just 3 basic things you've got to do well to win in this kind of a situation. And let's just recap those, right? Get really, really clear, grind on this to make sure we understand and we agree what we excuse me, what do we mean by waste?
Mm-hmm.
Make that list, quantify it, get to the big hitters, right? Do some root cause, combine the things that need to be, and then finally take action. And my experience has been, unless there's big information technology changes or having to train a lot of people, if you can't turn the crank and see a big improvement in 30 days, you're not paying attention. So I need to take a sip of water. Excuse me.
And while we're doing that, I just want to say J.W. Jones is here. He's a big time guy. I'm thankful for the folks that show up here and make comments. And we've got many more online that don't. But man, JW, thank you. Say this is a great document that would help get the ball rolling for any company. Nice work. But yeah, JW, he's quite a world-class sales manager in the material handling industry and lots of B2B, and he's become a resource to me for many things. Basically, if I need to know something or where to find someone that does something, I can call JW, and he's networked so well, he'll say, well, here's a few contacts. Thanks for coming, JW.
Yep, awesome.
Okay, here's a question.
And a point you made there was important, Jay, is this is absolutely evergreen and it's absolutely agnostic. I don't care what your organization does. I've used this in state government. I've used this in contact centers, insurance, manufacturing, all kinds. This is absolutely something wherever you're spending time and money, you can apply this technique. Go ahead, Jay.
Well, here's a question too from Tom. Do you evaluate expenses like healthcare, vendor costs, that sort of thing?
That would roll into that annual cost of having an employee. So when I had that $30,000 number in the worksheet, that was conservative, right? If you take a look at what it actually costs to have an FTE, like I remember I mentioned the defined benefits company, the annual cost for FTE there was like $70,000.
FTE, what's FTE?
Full-time equivalent. Huh. So the answer to the question is yes. If those costs are avoidable because I could eliminate the waste and produce twice as much with the same people as I have, yeah, you should consider those.
There's another question. JW says, how do we get a copy of this form?
Well, let me share that with you right now.
Okay.
So we have a program we developed a while back, and it's actually a 3-disc set, right? There's a 45-minute workshop guide where it's a facilitator's guide. There's the facilitator tips about how to run it. And this one is you actually run the video, and it's me teaching your team to talk about waste, get really clear about it, start your brainstorming session, work with the forms, right? So this is me literally facilitating your team, stop, start, stop, start. This is the guide for the facilitator, whoever's going to lead it, all the tips and tricks that I've worked into being successful running this kind of an activity, and a data CD with all the forms, right? There's if that worksheet you saw and the workbook and 24-page workbook, and then in an hour of coaching with me. So that's $1,297 if you wanted me to personally coach you and get you launched to do this. But if you're interested in having all this and put it in your library and be able to go save hundreds of thousands, if not millions, I'll sell you a copy for $99 because you showed up at this event. Just shoot us an email and my accounting folks will get you a copy out the door.
Yep. And I did put put that out on the comments too, accounting@metaexperts.com. And you can mention Stop the Crazy Waste. And how cool is that? Thank you, Ron. I know this is very valuable.
Thank you.
This has been a fantastic program, Ron. You really brought the gold here, and I very much appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm gonna just looking up the comments. I don't want to miss anybody. What happens so often is as I'm playing out the last song, some more people jump in, or maybe there's a delay. But I give them a chance to comment in the meantime. Ron, do you have any final comments to everyone before we sign off?
Well, here's the big thing is if you're a leader or a manager and you're concerned about your organization being more successful, you got to eat a little crow here. A lot of times the root causes for the things that really make people crazy and waste time is kind of comes back to us. The great Deming-ism is management cause. So we have to be really ready to sit back and just listen to our people, right? We may not like what we hear. They may even be wrong, but if they
Mhm.
perceive it to be true, perception is reality. So it's on us, right, to listen, capture that. And there's some very powerful aspects of what we learned here that I'm not going to explain in great detail. But if you're going to drive change in an organization, one of the best ways to get buy-in is to involve people in the solution. So this little exercise about what makes me crazy about the project, I'll run that on the front of any kind of a Kaizen, value stream mapping, process improvement project. I've incorporated this training as a core skill for any Lean Six Sigma, yellow belt, green belt, black belt. You got to be a really good facilitator and get people to talk, because the implication of that is A, you get to listen, and then when you listen, you learn. And then, oh, by the way, the people that feel like they were involved will now buy into, support, and be supporters of the change you're going to need to drive in your organization.
Yes. And the one last comment here, Tom, again, Warren Buffett, the easiest profit in business, the dollar saved.
Imagine
The-
that.
These are bottom line, right? These are bottom line dollars. I like it. Well, thank you very much for coming, Ron. And we'll see you next time. Have a great day.
Yep. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. And everyone, I want to thank you for coming to the Buyers and Sellers Show. I'm Jay Skinner, and you can reach me. Just go to www. I've got a lot of them. So THEJAY Skinner.com. And I just want to mention Sharon jumped in here. Hey, Sharon, 753 consecutive days online for her Reveal Products business. And I'm so proud of you. And I just want you to know she's going to be a guest on our show on Friday, December 24th. And that will be kind of a kickoff. And I'm going to ask everybody to come and support Sharon, because I think it's about the 26th. She'll give us the date. She's going to start kind of a drop dead go live where she is competing against some other people in her business and part of her company. And they're just going to go live and stay live 24 hours a day until the last person drops. How fun is that? Like a telethon. And we're going to support her in that and make it happen. So, and we want Sharon to win. How about that? Anyway, all that. Thank you very much for coming. How about a little blues to get out of here? See you next week, Friday, 10:35, Buyers and Sellers Show. I'm Jay Skinner, and I'm so glad you came. Thank you.